Welcome to my channel. If you like my videos, then kindly subscribe, like and watch. Thank you.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, chapter number 11 and the second part of this chapter, that is about strain energy. So in this lecture we are going to discuss strain energy for a general state of stress. Previously we discussed the strain energy of a body due to uniaxial stress. Then we discussed the strain energy for normal stress and then for shearing stress. So in this lecture we are going to define the strain energy for general state of stress. So by general state of stress we means that let we have a component, let we have a cube. Clear? Let me draw it. For example, this is a cube, this is y-axis, this is x-axis, and this is z-axis. Clear? And there is this is x-axis. So in this direction we have sigma x. There in this direction we have sigma y. Similarly in this direction, this is also sigma y, and this is sigma x. And this in z direction, this is sigma z. Clear? Also we have shear stress on this face, that is shear stress on this face. Similarly the shearing stress on this face as well, that will be in this direction. So if I draw it separately or in correct manner, so this will be like this is a cube. So on every face there will be three stresses. One is the normal stress and other two is shear stress. So this is sigma x. Clear? And in this phase there is a shear stress, that is tau of xy, tau of xy. Clear? Now there is another shear stress on this phase, that is tau of xz. Similarly on this phase this is sigma z, and on this phase there is a shear stress, that is tau of zy, and there is a shearing stress, that is tau of zx. Similarly on this phase there is a normal stress sigma y, and there is a shearing stress tau of yx. This stress will be tau of yx. Clear? And there is a shearing stress in this direction, tau of yz. Clear? So in a body in a general state of stress is characterized by 6 stress component, that is sigma x, sigma y and sigma z. These are 3, and tau of x, y, tau of xz and tau of yz, because these are the 3 also shearing stress, because tau of xy is equal to tau of yx. So we will take 3 stress. So total 6 components, stress component, 6 stress component will be 6 stress components. Sigma x, sigma y, sigma z, tau of xy, that is equal to tau of yx, tau of yz and tau of zx. So the strain energy density is obtained by adding the expression for normal stresses or axial stresses. So if you recall, the strain energy density is equal to integral of sigma x into d epsilon x. Clear? That is for axial stress, and for shear stress sigma u is equal to shear stress tau of xy into d gamma of xy. So again, for every stress component you have to write this equation and add. By adding all these stress component you will get this strain energy is equal to, I will write the short simplified form, that is equal to 1 over 2 sigma x into epsilon x plus sigma y into epsilon y plus sigma z into epsilon z. Similarly, here 1 over 2, if you integrate it, it will give you 1 over 2 sigma x. Similarly, it will be also 1 over 2, and 1 over 2 is common, so I will write it tau of xy into gamma of xy plus tau of yz into gamma of yz plus tau of zx into gamma of zx. Clear? So this is the total strain energy due to this general state of stress. Okay. So in and this this total strain energy is for total strain energy for elastic deformation. For elastic deformation, stress energy density or strain energy per unit volume for elastic deformation is given by this equation, and this is for an isotropic body. Now, what do you mean by isotropic body? So, isotropic bodies are those material in which property remains same when tested in different directions. So, if you test isotropic material in different directions, so its property does not change. Clear? Okay. So, this is the main equation of strain energy density for general state of stress for an isotropic body. Again, you can see there is sigma x, tau, sigma y, sigma z, tau xy, tau yz, and sigma z. And epsilon x, epsilon y, and epsilon z, gamma xy, gamma yz, gamma zx. Now, from chapter number 2, if you recall from chapter 2, where we discussed the strain. So, this strain sigma x is equal to sigma xx, sigma x divided by E minus nu time sigma y plus sigma z. Similarly, this epsilon y is equal to sigma y divided by E minus nu time minus nu over E. There is an E. Minus nu over E and minus nu over E into sigma x plus sigma z. And epsilon z is equal to sigma z over E minus nu over E into sigma x plus sigma y. And again, this gamma, also this, we know that shearing stress is equal to G into gamma, so implies that gamma is equal to tau divided by G. So you have to put the value of this sigma x over here. Clear? Similarly, you have to put the value of epsilon y, not sigma, epsilon x over here, epsilon y over here, and epsilon z over here, and the value of each shearing stress over here. Clear? So you will get a simplified form, which I will write it. It will be like this. U will be equal to this U, strain energy density will be equal to 1 over 2E into sigma x square plus sigma y square plus sigma z square minus 2 times nu, which is Poisson ratio, that is equal to sigma x into sigma y plus sigma y into sigma z plus sigma z into sigma x. Clear? Plus 1 over 2g. 1 over 2g, that is due to shearing. that will be equal to tau of xy square plus tau of yz square plus tau of zx square. I will repeat it, that if you put the value of this epsilon x, epsilon y, epsilon z, gamma of xy, gamma of yz and gamma of zx, so, and when you simplify it, the equation will become like that. Clear? So this is the total strain energy density for general state of stress. Now if we have if there is no shearing, let's assume there is no shearing stress. If shearing stress is equal to 0, it means this will become equal to 0. Clear? And stresses will be principal stresses. Stresses will be principal stresses, because you have studied it in chapter number 7, that is transformation of stresses. So if there is no shear stress, so the stresses will be principal stresses. So let sigma x become equal to sigma a and sigma y become equal to sigma b and sigma z is equal to sigma c. So this strain energy density will become equal to 1 over 2e into sigma, this will become sigma a square plus this will be sigma b square plus sigma c square minus 2 nu into sigma a into sigma b plus sigma b into sigma c plus sigma c into sigma a. And this is the strain energy density that is due to principal stresses, and there is no shearing stress in that. Clear? Okay. Now you recall from our previous knowledge for one of the criteria that is used to detect to predict the stress causes a ductile material to yield is the maximum distortion energy criteria. So maximum distortion energy criteria, I will write the shortcut. Clear? And that maximum distortion energy criteria, which is based on energy per unit volume associated with the distortion. By distortion mean change in the shape of that material. So if we take, we take this strain energy density is equal to uv plus ud. Now this total strain energy density is equal to uv plus ud. Now uv is the strain energy that is responsible for volume change. Clear? No distortion, only volume change. And ud is the distortion strain energy that is responsible for distortion. By distortion means change in the shape of the material. Clear? So let this total strain energy is equal to uv plus ud. Now there is a derivation, or there is a complete procedure that is available in the book of Mechanics of Material by F.B. Baron-Johnson, and that is available at page number 772 or 773. You can find it that uv, small uv is equal to 1 minus 2 nu over 6e into sigma a plus sigma b plus sigma c whole square, and this ud is equal to 1 over 12g into sigma a minus sigma b whole square plus sigma b minus sigma c whole square plus sigma c minus sigma a whole square. Clear? And that is equal to strain energy that is responsible for distortion, and this uv is strain energy density responsible for change in the volume. Clear? you can also check in the book about their derivation, although it's a bit lengthy, but for your understanding purpose, this sigma uv is equal to this term and this sigma ud is equal to this term. Okay, so you can see this is the strain energy that is responsible for distortion, and the same criteria that is used in failure theory. One of the failure theory, that is von Mises theory or maximum distortion energy theory. In which we have taken this ud directly, that is equal to 1 over 12 g into sigma a minus sigma b whole square plus this term. Clear? Now this strain energy is responsible for changing the shape or distortion. Clear? And we will take this is for 3-dimensional state of stress. So again, if you are dealing with plane state of stress problem, so by plane state of stress problem means sigma a is not equal to 0, sigma b is not equal to 0, and sigma c, because plane state of stress there is no stress in z direction, so sigma c will be equal to 0. So if you put it in this equation, so you will get strain energy density that is responsible for change in the shape will become equal to 1 over 6 g, and if you further simplify, it will be equal to 1 over 6 g into sigma a whole square minus sigma a into sigma b plus sigma b square. Clear? Now this is the strain energy density that is responsible for distortion for 2-dimensional state of stress, and this equation is used in that failure criteria in order to define the maximum distortion energy criteria for the material failure. Okay, so let's move further. I will add a slide. So from this discussion, we found that this ud is equal to 1 over 6g into sigma a square minus sigma a into sigma b plus sigma b square. Clear? So now if you consider a tensile specimen that yields, for example, if you have this specimen and you applied load, clear, sigma x, clear. So when it yields, there is only a uniaxial test. It means that sigma a is equal to sigma yield, because this if you increase this stress, of point will reach where the yielding will start. So at that point sigma x will be equal to sigma yield. So here there is a principal stresses, so this will be equal to sigma a. So sigma a is equal to sigma y, and sigma b is not available, that is 0, because it's a uniaxial tensile test. Clear? So this equation, if you put sigma b is equal to 0, so strain energy density for uniaxial tensile test will be equal to 1 over 6g into sigma, because this term will be 0 and this term will be equal to 0. So it will be equal to sigma yield square. So I will write it, ud is equal to sigma yield square over 6g. Now this is the strain energy density that is responsible for yielding. Okay, so this is the strain energy density that is required for the yielding. Again, clear? So this is the maximum. So again, this strain energy density should be less than this for yielding. Clear? I will write it. This is for yielding. Clear? So your this UD should be less than UD for yielding. Now what is this UD? This is equal to 1 over 6G into sigma A square minus sigma A into sigma B plus sigma B square. This should be less than sigma yield square over 6G. So it means that sigma A square minus sigma A into sigma B plus sigma B square should be less than sigma yield square. Clear? So this is the condition that we used for the maximum distortion energy criteria, that if you have principal stresses sigma A and sigma B for a general plane state of stress. Clear? So you can check that whether it will fail or not using maximum distortion energy criteria. So you can, this term on the left side should be less than sigma yield square. If it is greater, so obviously the material will yield and failure will occur. So this was all about strain energy density for general state of stress. Again, this is the same thing which I have done. This was the equation, and then we for when there is no shear stress, so this will become 0 and the equation will be, and when you put the value of epsilon x, epsilon and epsilon y and epsilon z and rearrange them, so the equation will be like this one. Now this is the total strain energy density, and that is equal to strain energy density responsible for volume change and plus strain energy density required for distortion. There, so UV is due to volume change, the strain energy density is this equation, and for strain energy density responsible for distortion is this one. Again, we are interested in distortion because it will give you the change in the shape. Clear? So again, this UD should be less than UD for yielding, which is sigma y square over 6G. So this term will be less than this. Clear? So again, that will give you the maximum distortion energy criteria. Okay. So now let's move toward another topic, that is work and energy under a single load. So this topic we have already covered in part 1, so I will go through quickly. So this is a rod, circular rod of uniform cross-sectional area having length L, and after applying a load P, its length exceeded by sigma x, by x. So now from the relationship of strain energy and strain energy density is this relation. This is strain energy and this is U is strain energy density. So if you put the value of U for this shaft, we have already discussed that this U is equal to sigma square over 2E. So if you put the value of U, this sigma square over 2E into dV. Clear? And this sigma is again equal to P by A. So instead of sigma, I have written P by A whole square over 2E. And this dV is equal to, as dV is equal to A into X. Clear? Because A into X or A into delta X, you can see small change. Clear? So instead of this dV, I have written A into dx. So when you integrate it, this will give you P1 square L over 2E. So again, this have already been done in in part 1 of this chapter. You can also calculate the same strain energy by using the formula for strain energy. You know that strain energy is equal to integral of P into dx, and limits start from 0 to x1. So for elastic deformation, we know this is the formula. P and P is equal to, for elastic deformation, P is equal to Kx. That is also been done earlier. So it is Kx. So when you integrate it, it will give you strain energy is equal to 1 over 2 P1 x1. Clear? And we know that this deformation due to load in our second chapter, I think. So if a load is applied on any member, that is P, so change in length or deformation delta x is equal to PL divided by AE. So the same formula is used. So x1 will be equal to P1L over AE. So when you put the value of x1 over here, so it will give you the same strain energy. You can see this strain energy P1 square L over 2AE is same is equal to just like this. So these are two methods that will yield you the same strain energy. Okay, so we will move toward another topic, work and energy under single loading. So you can see there are three different type of loading that is given: transverse loading, in which the load is perpendicular to the axis of beam; bending couple, you can see at the end there is a bending couple; torsional couple, clear, that is shown over here. So you can also find out the strain energy for this type of loading. So for this type of loading, we know that strain energy is equal to integral of 0 to y1, because this load causing the deflection y1 and the work done is in this direction. So integral of P into dy and limit says 0 to y1. So when you integrate it, it will give you this one, 1 over 2 P1 y1. Now for this type of loading, if you go to appendix 4 or appendix D of your book, that is appendix D, so you can see for different type of loading we have formulas available for maximum deflection, slope, and so you can see here the case is cantilever beam, and at the one end of the beam is concentrated load P1. So deflection for such type of beam is this: maximum deflection is PL cube over 3EI. Clear? So you can put the value of this y, P1L cube over 3EI. So the strain energy will become this one. So this is the strain energy for cantilever beam with a concentrated load at one end. Similarly, you can see the bending couple. So you can also apply the formula: strain energy is equal to integral of m into d theta, and if you integrate it, it will give you this value. Now m1 will be m1 and theta 1 can be found by using appendix D. So this is the scenario. You can see cantilever beam with a coupled movement. Clear? So deflection slope at this end is minus ml over ei, minus ml over ei, minus ml over ei. Here they have neglected the minus sign because minus sign show the direction. So if you put the theta 1 is equal to m1l over ei, so the strain energy due to bending couple will be this one. Similarly, for a shaft of uniform area having length L and fixed at one end, so strain energy will be equal to integral of T into torque into d phi, and if you integrate it, it will be like this. Now 1 over 2 T1, and we know that this is the twist angle of twist, and that is equal to TL divided by JG. If you go to chapter number 3, we have derived this angle of twist or phi is equal to TL divided by GJ. Clear? So you can put the value, so you will get the strain energy for torsional couple. Okay, so this was all about today's lecture. I hope you have enjoyed. In our coming lecture, we will discuss the very important concept, that is work and energy under several load, and then we discuss the Castigliano theorem that is used to define the deflection with respect to any force can be found out by using the Castigliano theorem. So stay tuned to my videos and keep watching and learn more and more. Thank you.